Today we are talking about reincarnation. Have you ever wondered if this life is just one of many that you've had? Have you ever even perhaps wondered if you're from maybe another planet or a higher being or just something beyond human? Today we're talking about reincarnation and signs that you have reincarnated many times. We're going to be taking a look at the idea of reincarnation from the viewpoint of logic and reason, and it's going to be good. That's what we're talking about today. We're jumping right into it. But as always, please first like and subscribe. Remember, this channel is not just about entertainment. It's about getting information out there to raise consciousness. And when you hit like and subscribe, it helps spread this info around. It tells the algorithm to show it to more people, and more people will have access to this. So please just take a second right now to hit like and subscribe. Please do. Okay, also, if you enjoy my work and you want to help my channel grow, help me create bigger and better videos, support over on patreon.com/morgofficial, and you'll get access to all of our members only videos. And there's a new one every single week. There's a lot. You can also get access to that by supporting at tier 2 or higher right here on YouTube by hitting the join button right below this video. I appreciate it very much. Also, some big announcements. I've said this before, but I want to remind you all that I am releasing a book series this year laying out the details of the Neogenian system. I'm very excited about this, so keep an eye out. I will be releasing more information about this very, very soon. Also, I now have a Spotify called Dawn of the New Earth. And you can find these videos on Spotify now, because if you didn't know, Spotify does videos. And so it can be, easier for some people to listen to on Spotify. It can be more convenient. And so if you have a Spotify account, go give me a follow. I appreciate it. It helps out. That's Spotify. You just look up Dawn of the New Earth and you'll find me and all these videos. All right, my friends. Oh, yeah. A couple of things. Remember, scammers in the comments, people saying to join my WhatsApp, join my Telegram. They're pretending to be me. That's not me. Also, there are a lot of crazy people out there, people who don't like me, don't like what I'm doing, don't like what we're doing. They're spreading a lot of disinformation and misinformation about me and our group and what we do. So just as always, use logic and reason, use your head, and don't fall for the BS. All right, here we go, my friends. We are talking about reincarnation, particularly 11 signs that you have reincarnated many times. So before we, jump right into this, I want to talk about the topic of reincarnation in general. So what is reincarnation? What is the purpose of it? Because that plays into the topic of incarnating many times. Well, if you think of reality as a system of energy, which it is, it's a system of self-transforming and optimizing energy. And many philosophers have pointed this out, particularly the philosopher Hegel, not really so much in terms of energy, but in terms of a logical structure that is coming to know itself through itself. So the philosopher Hegel talked about reality as being a mind, a single kind of being known as the absolute that is understanding itself by generating a dream world and placing itself within that dream world. This is also very similar to the system of Kabbalah, which discusses it in more mystical terms, where Hegel puts it in terms of reason. Kabbalah, it's more in terms of mysticism. So this is an idea that has been put forth throughout the years in the mystical traditions and in philosophy. And so the idea here is that reality is a system of self-transforming energy that's coming to know itself through itself. So one thing that we have to understand, though, is that rather than there just being one mind, there's both one and many at the same time. And this is important for understanding reincarnation. This is critical, okay? So reality is both one and many. What does that mean? It means there are many minds or many souls or many systems of energy, but these souls or minds all form a single network mind. And this single network mind we can call the absolute or the zeta configuration. And so the absolute is really all reality. The absolute is really all existence. And so we, each and every single one of us, is a soul, or in the Neogenian system, what we call a zeta, a system of mathematical energy patterns that is self-transforming and self-optimizing. Now, because reality is a network mind, this means that it works in a similar way, not the exact same way, as a neural network, like an artificial neural network, like AI. But this is not an artificial neural network. It's a mental neural network or a zetic neural network. Okay. So your brain is another example of a neural network. Your brain is a neural network. And so your brain is a system that is composed of many nodes or neurons. So within the network mind of the absolute, every single soul, every single zeta is a node in the absolute network mind. It's what we are. We are reality as a network mind, experiencing ourselves through a multiplicity of viewpoints. Okay. So we, as a multiplicity of zetas, are a multiplicity of perspectives, a multiplicity of minds that are eternal, systems of energy. So where does reincarnation fit into this? Now, I prefer the word relocalization rather than reincarnation, and I'll tell you why. So bodies are avatars. Avatars allow a soul or a zeta to interface with the physical world or the holos. This is what an avatar is. And so what does an avatar do? What is the function of an avatar? It is a zetic localization function. What that means is it allows a zeta to localize. And this is why I prefer the word relocalization. Well, what does localize mean? It means to experience an easy way to understand localization is like location. You have a particular location. You can be here, or you can be over there, or you can be all the way on the other side of the world, or you could be on the other side of the galaxy or the other side of the universe. There are particular locations that you are. So this is a localized world. Now, the domain of mind is a non-local domain with respect to this localized domain. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, think about the difference, and this is all critical for understanding reincarnation, all right? Because we want a really firm understanding of reincarnation. We don't want to just have some airy-fairy, my spirit guides told me this or whatever. We want to have and there's nothing wrong, by the way, with having intuitive understandings of these things. That's fine. But we want to explore this on rational ground, okay? So we want to understand what bodies are, what avatars are, what minds are, what souls are. We need to understand all these things before we can answer the question of reincarnation and what reincarnation is and how it works and how many times you've reincarnated and signs that you've reincarnated. We need to understand all this as a preliminary, okay? So you are a soul, you are a zeta that exists in the domain of mind, a frequency domain. This is a space-time domain, a localized domain. So a good way to understand this is like the difference between a video game world and the computer code. Okay? So if you think about a video game world, you can think of that like a localized domain. In the video game world, there are certain places you can be in the video game. But now think about the code. If you are in the video game world, there is no place. There is no singular location that the code is. The code is both everywhere and nowhere. The code is what allows the game to run, but the code isn't in the game anywhere. It's not in a specific, you can't, break open one of the game blocks and have code spilling out. That's not how it works. So the code with respect to the game is like a non-local domain. So what are video game characters? So imagine a video game character in that video game world that allows the code to experience its own video game world. So imagine that. Imagine a video game code that generates a video game world and then allows itself to experience that world it generated through the game characters. And then through the eyes of the game character, it now can experience a localized existence. Okay, so the analogy is not perfect, but we have a similar idea here. You as a zeta are the frequency components of reality. You are like the code of reality. You as a system of energy, energy being like the code of existence. And this energy gets transformed into the material world. Avatars are limiting and conditioning systems that allow you as a zeta to interface with the holos and experience a particular aspect of that world. Okay? So when you interface with an avatar, you are experiencing a very limited field of perception. But that's exactly what allows you to have the experience of being a particular thing. If you had the experience of everything all at once, you wouldn't have the experience of being a certain thing in a particular location, which allows you to have the interactions that you do. So think about now avatars or bodies evolving over time. As bodies evolve over time, you can think of the early stages of evolution, they evolve to limit and condition the mind in various ways. So different avatars limit and condition the bodies in different ways. How you experience the world is different than how a dog experiences the world, which is different from how a bat experiences the world, which is different from how a bee experiences the world. A bee sees, completely different types of experiences in the electromagnetic spectrum. A bat navigates by echolocation, etc. It's very, very different from how you and I experience the world. But each one of those avatars are interfaces for a zeta. So a zeta is interfacing with a bee avatar, a zeta is interfacing with a bat avatar, and a zeta is interfacing with a human avatar. And so that's what you truly are. You are a mind, you are a soul, you are a zeta, having these interfaces, and the different avatars condition the experience of the zeta in different ways. So we want to understand the relocalization or reincarnation process in terms of this. And we can understand that the brain and nervous system has evolved such that it filters out the data of past lives and past memories. And the reason why it does this is, of course, because it is a survival mechanism. It's a survival mechanism, an adaptation mechanism, because if you imagine in the early period of evolution, if you had a creature that was just inundated with all the information of reality, while it's contemplating the electron spin on the other side of the galaxy, another avatar, a predator avatar that's focused just on the here and now and what's right around it, is going to kill and eat the first avatar, and then via natural selection, that avatar will become extinct. And what will propagate is the avatar that filters out information that is not necessary for its immediate survival. It'll filter out all information and retain only the information that is necessary for its immediate survival and adaptation. And this is where we get to the avatars that we have today that have evolved to survive and adapt better than any other avatar and has filtered out past life information. So why don't we remember our past lives? Because that's literally the function of the brain, to filter out unnecessary information that is not relegated to our survival right here and now. However, that does not mean just because we filter out that information doesn't mean the information isn't there, right? Filtering out does not mean deleting. The information that you have acquired through lifetimes exists within you as a zeta, as an eternal mind, as a soul, as a system of optimizing frequency patterns. You are evolving, you are transforming, and you are growing as you are having these experiences here, even though across lifetimes you forget past lifetimes. Even though you forget past lifetimes, it doesn't mean that information is deleted. It's just stored within the energy confines of you as a zeta, rather than being explicitly accessible to your conscious mind. And this goes to it's still, even though you forget this information, it's not really forgotten, it's just filtered, you still contain it. So it still aids in your optimization and evolution. Just like you can't remember the exact day that you learned to multiply or the exact day you learned certain words, you can still speak English and do basic math. You can do this because that's something that you learned and you acquired that data. Even though you don't have explicit memories of the particular days that you learned that, it still goes, it exists in your unconscious mind, and it still allows you to, you're able to talk right now in a way that is facilitated by many different unconscious processes. So when you're talking and using language, a lot of this is facilitated by unconscious processes. It's only when you're trying to express something difficult, or you can't find, or you're searching for a certain word, where really explicit conscious processes come in, because now you start, when you're talking, you're not thinking of, you're not explicitly thinking of each and every single word that you're going to say. You've said it so many times, it just flows out. Just like if you've played a piano or you practice guitar, you've played a song, 1,000 times or 100,000 times or whatever, however many times. If you play a song over and over and over again, you can just play it. And it becomes this unconscious process. You don't have to think about each chord that you're going to play, where your fingers have to go. You just play it because it's been integrated into your unconscious. So a lot of your processes in life are facilitated by unconscious processes. And your consciousness does a lot of direction, but so much of it is facilitated by unconscious processes. And this just goes to show the power of the unconscious and the importance of the unconscious. So what does all this have to do? What I'm trying to get at here is that if you think of souls or minds or zetas as being nodes in the absolute neural network, the mental neural network, then lifetimes are like gathering training data. When you go out and learn and explore, you are gathering training data. Every other soul, every other mind, every other zeta is also gathering training data. As we interact with each other, we're gathering training data. We're having these experiences, and this leads to our growth. This leads to our optimization. So we have to put this all together and see that reincarnation or relocalization isn't superfluous. It doesn't have to do with, you know, the traditional ideas of morality or karma or things like that. It has to do with growth, optimization, experiences, and how that affects the mind. It is a system that is coming to know itself. It's about learning, understanding, and experiencing. Reality strives to experience and know itself. That is what existence is trying to do, experience and know itself in all its various transformations. And avatars facilitate this. Avatars allow us to have experiences from different perspectives and different viewpoints. Just like a computer code, imagine a computer code that wanted to understand itself and experience itself. And so it generated video game worlds and video game avatars for it to experience itself in. All right, so very, very similar. The difference here being is that there isn't just one mind, it's both one and many, in that it has many eternal nodes, zetic nodes, zetas. So we are individual nodes, individual souls, individual minds, that where our identity persists lifetime after lifetime. We don't get absorbed into some kind of cosmic oneness after our avatar passes away. We persist as an eternal self that is going through this process of optimization, yet we exist within a singular network system. So some people, you know, believe, oh, we're all one. And then other people believe, no, we're all individuals. The truth is both. We're one and many. We are one mind experiencing itself through a multiplicity of individual perspectives as individual nodes within a network system. All right. So when it comes to reincarnation, when it comes to, or like I said, like I prefer relocalization, this is for understanding our world, ourselves, and each other. That's what this is all about. And so let's take a look here. I want to bring up this article on medium.com. Okay. So this article is called, let's see, let me bring it up here. It's called 11 Signs Your Soul Has Reincarnated Many Times. So we're going to take a look at this. And this is written by Marta Enriquez. So Marta Enriquez. And if you enjoy, we're going to read some quotes by Marta. And if you enjoy the quotes that we read, go follow Marta on medium.com. Go give her a follow. Go support her there. If you enjoy some of the stuff that we're going to, a couple of the excerpts that we're going to read from this. So what I want to do is take a look and see what Marta thinks are signs that you have reincarnated many times, and see how this clicks and how this fits in with what we know about existence, what we know about reincarnation, what we know about transformation and evolution. Okay. So the first sign that Marta points out and says is a sign that you've incarnated many, many times is profound intuition. She says individuals with a history of multiple lifetimes often exhibit a heightened sense of intuition. So is that true? Well, first of all, here's what I want to talk about. When we're talking about a history of many lifetimes, first of all, it is very likely that you haven't incarnated once or twice or 3 times or 4 times or 10 times or 100 times. It's very likely that you have incarnated countless times. Now, if we're talking about let's throw another part of the puzzle into this. Reality progresses through universal cycles. So there are cycles to the universe where there will be a Big Bang, then a return to a singularity, and another Big Bang. So you'll have the beginning of the universe will evolve and grow, reach an endpoint, and that will be the end of the universe, but the end of the universe will be the birth of a new universe. So you have universal cycles. So just like humans have lifetimes, there's a lifetime to the universe, at least the physical aspect of the universe. There are lifetimes to it, just like everything else. Everything exists in a cycle. But you as a zeta, you as an eternal mind, are eternal. So if we're talking about a single universal cycle, we can talk about how many times you have incarnated. But if we're talking about just period, if we're going beyond into multiple universal cycles, you have incarnated an infinite number of times because you are literally eternal. Eternal means having no beginning and no end. You have always existed, always will exist, and never not exist. So you have incarnated infinite times. But if we're relegating it to a single universal cycle, then we can talk about finite numbers, because now there's a beginning and an end point, whereas eternity has no beginning or end point. But if we're putting this in terms of a single universal cycle, now we can talk about beginnings and ends. And so within a universal cycle, how many times you've incarnated is likely still a astronomically large number of times. Because remember, we're not just talking about human bodies, we're talking about animal bodies, we're talking about possibly even plants, depending on the avatar interface complexity. But we have this idea of the great chain of being, and the great chain of being goes back to many different esoteric doctrines. And remember how I said reality is like gathering training data? Well, each avatar offers more rich training data. So the experiences of a fly is going to be much less rich training data than the experiences of a human being. As a fly, you're just going to buzz around, lay eggs and poop and get swatted. And I'm sure you can gather a fair amount of training data from experiences like that. But as a human being, your experiences are going to be much more rich. And so it's much more likely that you are going to gain more and more training data through a human avatar. So it's very likely that zetas follow this chain of being, where they first interface with avatars that provide a lower amount of training data, perhaps basic insects. And then as they optimize and grow, they interface likely with higher avatars that provide higher training data, lizards and, amphibians, reptiles, then going to mammals, cats and dogs, etc., then human beings. And the reason why this is because, remember, it's like training data. So it's like going to school. If you go to school, well, you're going to, and if you've never been to school before, you're going to start at kindergarten. You're not automatically going to take a college course. You're not going to start taking like PhD level courses your first day at school. So it's very likely, this as above, so below, it's very likely the avatar interface follows a similar pattern where some avatars provide much more rich experiences than others. And you're going to have this gradation of avatar interfaces. And, someone else asked me, can you incarnate as an animal after being a human? And my answer to that is, sure, you probably can, but I believe that that's highly unlikely, because that would be like, well, after taking a PhD class, going back to kindergarten. Sure, you could do it, but it's going to be very boring. So for you as a zeta, as a soul, after you've experienced many lifetimes as a human, the experiences of a fly aren't going to give you any training data. So they're not going to provide you with information that would help you optimize or grow, because you've probably done that already. So anyways, the idea here is that it's very likely that you have incarnated many, 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 many times. And like I said, the reason why that you don't have explicit access to these memories is because the brain has developed as a filtering mechanism. Some people can access these because some people are more close, have a more deep connection to their unconscious mind. There's also, like past life regression, etc. Now, verifying whether these are genuine or not, that's another story, and that requires a lot of rational inquiry and scrutiny. But that being said, what about this idea of profound intuition as sign number one? Well, I would say that, yeah, I think that profound intuition, what I would say here is that this is indicating, rather than thinking about in terms of how many times you have incarnated, rather thinking about the level of training data that you have acquired, or the level of optimization you as a mind are at, or the level of consciousness that you as a mind are at. Because it's not necessarily the number of times either. It's how you use the experiences that you have access to. Because you can imagine someone who interfaces with a human avatar and localizes, and all they do is watch Netflix, eat junk food, and sit around their house and play video games. And that's it. Now, there's nothing wrong with watching Netflix and playing video games, okay? But imagine that's all they do. And then they die, and then they have another lifetime, and that's all they do again. And imagine they do that again and again and again and again. They can have many, many lifetimes, and they're not going to be doing very much optimization. Now, you can imagine someone else who has a single lifetime, who works incredibly hard on themselves, has a very sort of maybe like Nietzschean idea of self-overcoming and self-transforming, creating beautiful, masterpieces of art, studying science, studying philosophy, having, experiences with love and romance and, helping change the world, things like that. That level of optimization in a single lifetime will perhaps be contributing to the growth of themselves as a soul, as a zeta, nearly infinitely more than someone who's just sitting around and watching Netflix all day and nothing else for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. I know that you wouldn't have Netflix after lifetime, but you get what I mean. Listening to the radio all day, then watching TV all day, then watching Netflix all day, then engaging in cyber XR out-of-body technology all day, or whatever is next. So really, you have incarnated many times. And what I think these are more indications of our level of consciousness. So number two, let's see what number two is, according to Marta. Strong deja vu experiences. Frequent and intense deja vu moments may indicate a soul that has encountered similar situation in past lives. I do believe that this is possible. I believe that deja vu could indicate a familiarity with a past life. We don't know for sure that that is true, but it's very possible. If you feel like, wow, this is weird, I feel like I've been here before. Maybe you were there in a past life. But we also have to remember that we're connected to the collective unconscious. We're connected to the consciousness of all of humanity as well. So it's possible that maybe we're tapping into the collective unconscious. Maybe we're tapping into just the experience in general. Someone else who had the experience we could be tapping into. It's like when multiple people, let's say, have a memory of being the same person, they all couldn't have been the same person, but we're connected to the collective unconscious. So we're accessing sort of the collective reservoir of information. So deja vu, could it be a sign? Yes, I actually do believe it. It could be a sign of that you have had an incarnation that experienced that before. We don't know for sure. And it could also be a connection to the collective unconscious, not necessarily your personal experience, but possible. Number three, according to Marta, says diverse cultural interests. And this is interesting. Let's see what she has to say about this. A soul that has undergone multiple incarnations may feel a natural affinity for various cultures, eras, and historical periods. You might find yourself drawn to specific periods or regions or cultural practices, even if they are vastly different from your current surroundings. This is a really interesting one. And this is another one that I believe, yes, I believe that this is possibly true. If you feel a very strong connection to certain practices or certain traditions that would seem out of the ordinary for someone in your culture, yeah, that's possible that you have had some sort of past life experience For me personally, I feel a very strong affinity towards certain Hindu cultural aspects. I think it's very, very interesting. It resonates with me and strikes a chord in a certain way. Now, again, do we know for sure? Can we say for sure this happened? This is the case? No, we don't really know for sure, but it's very, very possible. We can think about resonating with, I think probably a lot of us will resonate with Egyptian culture as well. Egyptian is a really strong one because that's very rooted in the mystical. But so this is a possibility. However, another thing that I want to say here, though, simply being interested in different cultures, I think is so there's a difference between, I feel this affinity for a very specific culture. And yes, that may be indicative of a past life experience within that culture. However, then there's the idea of also just being generally interested in other cultures. Now, I think the being generally interested in other cultures is a sign of a highly optimized mind, a mind that is evolved, a mind that is gone through many different lifetimes. And the reason why is because when you find yourself interested in other cultures, this is part of the absolute wanting to know itself. And the absolute wants to understand itself. And so the absolute's going to be interested in things that it doesn't know. It's going to be interested in things that are different from it. And this is a sign of higher awareness. And in the Neogenian system, we call this all awareness. Hyper awareness being a very highly evolved form of all awareness. All aware. This is a sign, a sign pointing towards all awareness. Why? Because someone who is simply self-aware will often see different cultures as a threat, because self-awareness has developed to identify that which is different from you as being a threat to your being, because that is how we survived. We grouped together with those who were like us, and those who were different than us often wanted to kill us. And so we, as a survival mechanism, and self-awareness being part of that, has developed to see the other as a threat. But guess what? We don't have to be in that mode. We can transcend that mode, the self-aware mode, into the all-aware mode, and remember that, hey, because someone is different from you does not mean that they are a threat. In fact, this can be an opportunity for growth and learning. And this is why we have to, once we all, now, of course, in a world that's dominated by this divisive mindset, we have to be careful, because other people who are in just a self-aware mode will see things that are different from them as a threat, which is why if you feel different from another, group, that group will often be hostile to you. So you have to, be careful. But if we enter into a society where we all begin to reach all awareness together, then we're no longer viewing others as threats. Rather, we see others as different aspects and opportunities for growth and learning. So you see, where we are here for growth, learning, and experiences. We have to be alive. Our avatars have to be, in a working condition to be able to have these experiences. So survival is what came first, which means we had to defend ourselves and look out for threats. But now, as we reach all awareness, we can realize that others are opportunities for growth and understanding. And so therefore, when we see others, we don't have to be like, oh, they're an enemy, they're different, they're weird. Instead, we go, oh, that's interesting. I want to learn from you. I want to learn about you. I want to learn about your culture. I want to learn about your life. I want to learn about how you see things, how you experience things, because this is more growth, more learning, more training data, more experiences for us. So this is a sign, in my opinion, of reaching closer to all awareness. Number 4, Marta says, unexplained fears or phobias. So unexplained fears or phobias that seem disproportionate to your current lifetime experience may be remnants of past life traumas. Yeah, I believe that this is possible as well. If you have some intense phobia of something and there's no reason why, perhaps you have an intense phobia of water, and you didn't have any traumatic experience with water, it's not like you almost drowned as a kid or anything like that, maybe this has to do with a past life. I agree with this one. 5, innate skills and talents. Having an inherent proficiency or talent in a certain area without formal training or exposure in this lifetime could be signs of skills acquired in a past life. I believe that that is true as well. We can see this often in child prodigies, and I believe that that is a possible acquisition from a past life. 6, Marta says, strong empathy and compassion. A soul with multiple lifetimes may develop a deep sense of empathy and compassion. Now, again, remember, we've all incarnated countless times, most likely. And so strong empathy and compassion is, as I said, indicative of a higher consciousness. Strong empathy and compassion is not necessarily many times, but it may be correlated. It depends how you use. You can incarnate again and again and be an asshole lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Of course, eventually you'll hopefully start to learn and grow and transcend that. But strong empathy and compassion is indicative of higher consciousness, higher awareness. Again, why? Because you start to realize that that's indicative of all awareness, because you realize that we're all nodes in a network mind, which means we are all one network experiencing ourselves through a multiplicity of viewpoints. So I'm going to have empathy and compassion to you because I realize that you're just a reflection of me. If I were to hurt you, that would be harming myself. So empathy and compassion comes with a true understanding of all awareness when you realize that we are all together as one in a system of multiplicity. So, in my opinion, indicative of all awareness, that particular one. Number 7, according to Marta, lifelong quest for spiritual growth. A persistent and lifelong pursuit of spiritual growth and understanding may indicate a soul that recognizes the importance of evolving across various lifetimes. Yes, agreed. Now, again, I would say that, remember, this has to do more with quality than quantity necessarily, but a quest for spiritual growth is indicative of a higher consciousness, which can be a result of many lifetimes. But yes, so indicative of higher awareness, you wanting to know and understand. You see the pattern here. It all comes down to understanding intuitively, having a better idea of what reality is. Because when you have a better idea of what reality is, you realize, oh, I don't want to hurt other people. I want to care about other people because we're all in this together. We're all part of a unified mind as a network. I want to focus on things that have to do with my, quote unquote, spiritual growth, understanding what I am, where I am, and why I'm here. Because reality is about learning, growth, understanding, and experiencing, which entails enjoyment as well, by the way. It's not all just about learning. It's also about enjoying as well. We always want to remember that there's this dual aspect to reality where it's about learning and understanding and growth and knowledge and experience, but we also want to enjoy life as well. Enjoyment is very important for existence because existence is basically like playing a game with itself. So we want to have fun while we do it, or else there's no point in doing this. It should be fun. It should be enjoyable. Recurring dreams or memories. Recurring dreams or vivid memories of places, people, or events that seem unrelated to your life may be glimpses into past incarnations. I believe that that is possible, that recurring dreams or memories could be glimpses into past lives that you may have had. There's a couple things to note here, though. Remember that whenever you have a dream, it's not exactly how something happened. So, for example, if you've had a dream about something that happened in your life, I'm sure that your dream was not exactly the same as the memory you had. Maybe your dream is similar to the memory, and also there's a dragon there or something. Dreams are very, very rarely exact copies of memories. So if you have a dream about a past life, first of all, remember, it's very unlikely that it's going to be a completely accurate. And second of all, it may not be a past life memory. Your dreams communicate archetypally. Your dreams communicate in symbolism. Your dreams communicate through a narrative. So you could have dreams about certain periods in history, and it can be your mind communicating something to you in an archetypal way. So this one I think is possible, but remembering that it is going to be not exactly as it actually occurred. And there's also no way to verify if it actually is a memory or not, or is your mind communicating with you in an archetypal way. You can have a strong intuition of one or the other, but currently there's not a way to know for sure if it actually is an experience that you've had or if it's your mind communicating to you archetypally. So this, I would say, possibly, but keep in mind we want to stay rationally grounded with these kinds of things. 9, natural healing abilities. Some individuals with reincarnated souls may possess natural healing abilities. This could manifest as intuitive understanding of holistic practices, energy work, or other therapeutic modalities that go beyond conventional knowledge. Well, with this one, we always want to be careful when we talk about healing abilities and things like this. We want to be careful that we are always being safe and we are, getting the best medical treatment possible. Because does the mind have the ability to heal the body? In a certain way, we know that it does via the placebo effect. And the placebo effect is a very powerful effect that the mind has on the body that science cannot explain. The mind can affect the body in a positive way that materialist science cannot explain. So we know that the mind has the power over the body like this. However, the placebo effect, this power it has, is about symptoms. It can alleviate symptoms, but not cure the cause. So, for example, if you have a certain condition and that condition comes with symptoms like pain or vomiting, the mind has the power to overcome the symptoms, like reducing the pain and eliminating the vomiting or reducing the vomiting, but it can't cure the underlying cause. That's what we know about the placebo effect. So the placebo effect is very real, very powerful, but there are limits to it. So when we talk about healing, we just always want to be careful that we stay grounded. We realize what is possible, what isn't possible, and know that the mind is very powerful and can aid. But we always want to, as well, make sure that we're listening to medical professionals and what our doctors are suggesting and choosing that which is best for your health and listening to professionals. So number 10, strong connection to nature. A profound connection to nature, animals, and the elements can be a sign of a soul that has experienced various forms of earthly existence. I think that that's possible as well. If you have an affinity for a certain type of animals, perhaps you've even incarnated as those animals before, I think that that is a possibility. I don't think it's necessary, but it's a possibility. And then 11, a sense of timelessness. Individuals with a history of reincarnation may have a sense of timelessness, perceiving life as an eternal journey rather than a linear progression. This perspective can lead to a more profound understanding of the cyclic nature of existence. So we talked about that before, about how reality is not linear. It is cyclical in the fact that it goes through universal cycles. Everything is cyclical. Everything in reality is ultimately part of a cyclic pattern. You have days and nights, you have years, you have seasons, you have rotations, you have electromagnetic oscillations, you have universal cycles, all this. Everything is a cyclical pattern. Everything ultimately is bound up in a cyclical pattern in some way or another. And so this idea of being eternal and feeling timeless, yes. So again, I don't necessarily think, in my opinion, these things that this individual is pointing out is not necessarily indicative of the number of times one has incarnated, but rather the level of awakening that one is having, the level of progression that one has attained, the level of transformation that one is going through, the level of consciousness that one is going through. So this sense of timelessness can be indicative of, again, the better you understand what reality is, where you are, why you're here, even if it's on an unconscious and an intuitive level, you're going to have these intuitions, you're going to have these understandings. And by the way, I want to say, as always, just because you don't have some of these doesn't mean that you haven't incarnated many times, or doesn't mean that you aren't a mind that has progressed very far. So for example, if you don't have recurring dreams or memories of past lives. That's fine. It doesn't matter. So the reason why I emphasize that is because these are very, very interesting. And I think that these can be indicative of mental progression or soul progression or Zedic progression and optimization and transformation. They can be indicative of this. But I always want you to remember that if you're not matching some of these, that's okay. It doesn't mean that that there's something wrong with you or there's a problem or that you're unable of reaching high states of mind, high states of consciousness, and high states of influence on the world. Because I think this is this is a big problem in a lot of esoteric systems, occult systems, new age systems, spiritual systems that can make you feel like you're not good enough. Like, oh, I don't know. I don't have past life experiences. Maybe I'm not that much of a spiritual person and I can't make a difference. Or maybe I'm not part of the 144,000, or maybe I'm not part, I've never been contacted by the ascended masters. Maybe I'm not special or something. I don't like things that go down that route, because every single one of you has the potential to transform yourself and transform the world. Every single one of you. Doesn't matter if you have recurring dreams or memories. Doesn't matter if you don't have innate skills that you never practiced but can do. These things don't matter. Can they be indicative of having certain kinds of past life experiences? Can they be indicative of certain progression levels? Yes, they can, but they're not necessary. And you can transform yourself and transform your life no matter what. And that's very important to understand, because this is your life, and it's important to realize you are powerful. You are an eternal being and have the power for self and universal transformation. So when it comes to reincarnation, or like I said, I prefer relocalization, it's important to understand that you have likely localized many times before. And the important thing to understand is not about how many times, but about what you're doing with the time that you have right now. Because remember, when you localize, you have a filtering of the brain or filtering of the mind through the brain, and you forget your previous lifetime. So right now, you are at a very powerful moment in your life where, likely by watching videos like this and being attracted to content like this, you are waking up to what you are, where you are, and why you are here. And now you can take advantage of that to truly grow, learn, and expand, and realize that there are important things to focus on in life, rather than being caught up in the sleepwalking state, the slumber that is cast upon the general population, where they get caught up in the mundane rat race of life, and then they're not doing much optimization. They're not doing much growth. Of course, they're doing a little bit, but you can do so much more when you become conscious of the fact that you are here right now as a soul, interfacing in a localized existence with the opportunity for growth and learning and interaction with other individuals who understand this as well. And this is why building a community is so important as we build the absolute awakened here on earth right now. So I hope you enjoyed this, my friends. I have a lot more videos on my channel. Check them out. I have a video called Reincarnation Explained Logically, I believe. And if you enjoy my work, please like and subscribe so that we can spread this information around. And if you want to help me create bigger and better videos, better content, help me reach more people, then support over on patreon.com/morgofficial, and you'll get access to all of our members only videos. There are a lot of them, a new one every single week, and it helps out. I really appreciate it. And you can also support on YouTube by hitting the join button right below this video, and you can get access to members only videos as well. And I do have a Spotify. Check out my Spotify, Dawn of the New Earth. Go check it out. Go give me a follow on there. And as always, remember, hey, this isn't church, so don't feel obligated to support monetarily. You don't have to. There are plenty of free ways you can support, like liking and subscribing and sharing and all that. But I want to shout out those who support. It means a lot. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much, especially to Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, the Halloween Mom, DB, Fashida, Enki, Nusalina, Masam, Eric Fire, Christopher Smith, the Eternal Empire, and everyone else. Thank you very much.